Everyone is racing to add more AI tools to their workflow, whether it's Notion AI or OpenClaw, ChatGPT, Claude, etc., you name it. The promise is always the same. You add more, you're going to have more output, less effort. But what I have found is the exact opposite. There's a trap that nobody's talking about. Every new tool you're adding is forcing your brain to another context switch. And every switch comes with a measurable physiological cost. You burn precious capital. It has an impact on your brain long term. So while AI keeps getting smarter, better, the tools are sexier, what's happening in the AI digital age is compounding a problem that's been going on for decades. Our attention is getting weaker and weaker. And if you examine the top best producers, they have a really tight stack of tools that they use that all work together to really optimize flow and keep their brain in an optimized state. So, to give me a few minutes, I'm going to break down how this is happening, what's happening when you start to pile in too many tools, and the exact protocol to fix it. All right. So if you again like this video, please give it a like, share it with somebody that will benefit, subscribe. That helps us to reach more people. We put out one video a day. If you are a busy professional and you're struggling, feeling overwhelmed, finding time for your own wellness care, for your own brain health, this is the place for you. We're going to teach you every week how to dominate the AI powered age without costing you more stress, less sleep, and other health issues. Because remember, whenever your brain goes, so will your health and your longevity. That's the secret to health and longevity. It is your brain. All right. So again, often we feel like we more AI tools is going to mean more output. And certainly AI can lead to more output. I use AI all the time. And in fact, in Zen Brain Academy, we also teach how to leverage tools for more time and for better health because you can leverage AI to your favor to give you more output without sacrificing yourself. But the problem is that as you add more tools, you're adding something called context switching. And it's actually potentially going to make you less productive. AI is supposed to make you more productive, but your brain says the exact opposite when you examine this. So let's see why. What you think is happening is the following: more AI tools mean more leverage, more output, more productivity. But as you add more AI tools, there's more tab switching, higher cognitive load, something that I have actually found in my own personal use with AI is that AI moves so quickly. It is so good at times that I feel overwhelmed. I can't keep up. So, unless you have a team, this is why sometimes people feel like AI is going to lead to a lot of job destruction, but at the same time, it's going to lead to a lot of job growth because I feel sometimes that I need other people to be doing some of the surveying, some of the analyzing of the data so that I can produce more without me feeling this cognitive overload. Sometimes I even feel a little bit stressed, and I wrote the Bible in a sense of stress-free living, the art of stress-free living. And so it's going to lead to cognitive spikes, fragmented focus. This actually happens in the digital age regardless, because a lot of times people work in a way that deteriorates deep focus work, that's impacting negatively the prefrontal cortex, which you've talked about in other videos. And so when I work, I may have my phone right by me. It's pinging, it's showing me notifications. Maybe I have a lot of tabs open. I'm feeling like as I'm working, oh, let me go check my email, let me go check this and that. And that starts to throw me off. And so you then add on another layer, AI, that keeps getting smarter and better. And as I've talked about, even in my own personal use of I feel like sometimes I'm getting overwhelmed and it can be very detrimental. So, what does context switching actually do? So, to return to deep focus after you do a single context switch, this is why whenever you're doing something, do it deeply. Be focused on that one thing before you take a break. It takes a certain amount of time before you kind of get back in the groove. And also, your brain doesn't work well going extended periods. So, after a certain amount of time, that ability to focus starts to deteriorate. So you want to work in chunks and blocks and do deep focus work. Work with one tool, become really good at it, and avoid bouncing around. Just not just other tools, but also other tabs and other activities. It will also, each switch also triggers measurable cortisol release. We talked about the cortisol spike, that's a stress hormone. And of course, it also doesn't lead to more productivity. Research has shown it leads to a decrease in productivity. Because when you examine heavy task switchers, those that glorify themselves as being good multitaskers, they lose up to 40% effective output. And at the same time, they open the door to mental health problems, to more stress, more sleep issues, etc., more anxiety. You become really scattered. Your brain really needs to harness the energy, needs to focus. It really is detrimental to your brain health. So there's a hidden cost to tool overload. We talked about the prefrontal cortex. Every time, that's the part of your brain that allows you to take information from the past, use it in the present. That's called working memory. I did research on that for many years in the prefrontal cortex and working memory. And every time that you have to switch, whenever you're stressed, you're unable to stick on one thing. It causes you to become more labile. You start to go from one thing to another to another. You have a hard time really focusing. And of course, in the AI powered digital age, this problem becomes even more juiced up, more exacerbated, more attention deficit, I predict, will be occurring in the future. And so it's going to leave less for actual thinking, for your ability to really focus. We talked about stress turning off the prefrontal cortex. So that's going to reduce working memory, one of the main functions of the prefrontal cortex. And that working memory is the resource that you're supposed to be freeing up. You're supposed to be able to free up your prefrontal cortex, which is going to allow you to become more creative, more powerful. But as I add up too much and I start getting overwhelmed, I'm going to deteriorate that ability. Deep work is the only state where you can compound output. This is why I've said many times, and this becomes obviously neurologically impossible for many people in the age that we live in. I've said many times before, mindfulness, meditation are something you want to integrate. You want to integrate practices that help you to harness your brain's chemistry, breathing techniques, etc. Your own wellness practices, learning to set up the right schedule during the day, which is what we teach in Zen Brain, how to design the entire framework based on 5 pillars that will allow you to dominate the AI age without this fragmentation, without really deteriorating your prefrontal cortex. And so, and lastly, of course, if I'm doing this overload leads that by 2 p.m., that's it, I'm fried. Or maybe for some people, it's earlier. And it's not from too much work, it's a lot of micro switches and setting up a schedule that did not allow for the recovery to occur, for regeneration, recycling, renewal. We cannot have this linear approach to our day. We cannot go, 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 go endlessly. It's going to lead to tapering down and eventually you fall off a cliff. And that falling off a cliff means stress, breakdown, sleep issues, disease, so on and so forth. Your brain health starts to get impacted. And I've talked about in many videos before how this will also open the door as you age to cognitive decline, to more than likely early onset Alzheimer's, or more than likely cognitive deficits, aching, or at the level of Alzheimer's disease in a larger subset of the population. We're seeing this already. Before technology, when technology was early on, about 2 decades ago, as a researcher, I talked to other colleagues and I discussed the impact that this was having. And I predicted at that time, over 20 years ago, the rise of attention deficit and autism spectrum, correlating with the rise of technology. I am predicting now as well a rise in Alzheimer's disease, dementia, cognitive deficits, brain health issues, and more than likely early onset dementia as well, starting in early millennials down. Early millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, where technology exposure started to ramp up. And this is based on numbers and facts. If you look at Gen Z, Gen Z is the first generation that is actually, from an IQ standpoint, emotion, intellectual quotient, brain function, kind of behind the previous generation. That's not supposed to happen. Societies continue to progress. Things are supposed to improve. Education, etc. Research is supposed to improve. But in fact, even though we have more at our disposal, common sense at an all-time low. The numbers on testing measures are all-time low, reading comprehension, analysis, critical thinking, etc. So all of this is getting backed up by the data. And I only predict this is going to get worse unless people start to take action. Is one of the reasons why I launched Zen Brain. Despite the fact that I'm not from those generations, I grew up in an era where I was exposed to technology through video games. My parents didn't have any oversight whatsoever. I had attention deficit and mild dyslexia. It caused a lot of problems in standardized testing. And I got to Yale School of Medicine. However, when I went to talks, I had a hard time sitting there and focusing. It was very difficult for me. And I had to learn to train my brain to become more focused, to overcome those quote unquote disabilities or that labeling. Fortunately, nobody labeled me at that time. So that didn't set me back even more because a lot of times parents or society or a doctor labels a child and prescribes something. And now it starts to kind of limit them, put them in a box. I didn't have that at least. I kept pushing and trying to figure it out until I developed a system that has become the genesis of Zen Brain Academy, where I teach how you're able to level up your brain in a sense to develop what I call that Zen brain state, that state of a brain. Think of a Zen master, a master that's really optimized their emotional state, their brain state. They're very powerful and they're able to reach their potential. Not in a kind of loosey-goosey way, but in an actual real way, measurable way. Because what we teach now, and I've talked about this in other videos, is your actions should not be creating a lifestyle. It's creating protocols that you can assess, that you can determine how they're benefiting you. And you can really measure. You're the scientist. Your body, your brain is the laboratory, the canvas upon which you do your experiments. And I can teach you how to do that. So the tools are never the problem. It's not a technology's fault. It's the way that we often do this. It's the stack that's the problem. People often have a loose stack. They'll start adding way too many things. It may not be 20 AI tools, but even myself, that I don't have anywhere near 28 tools. Maybe regularly I use 5. Like I said, sometimes the way that I'm using them creates a pace of output that produces this pressure to produce more. And I start getting overwhelmed that I can keep up with the amount of things that are being produced by AI. And I feel like I need to bring somebody else in to be doing other things that I just can't keep up with. Constant tap switching, tools fighting for more attention. Obviously, these tools don't include just AI. It could be social media, it could be my email, it could be video games on the phone, whatever it may be. It's less productivity and it isn't useful. You want a tight stack, 3 to 5 core tools max, integrated into one workflow. Organize it in a way, be very thoughtful. You could even use AI to help you with creating that tight stack. I do that all the time. I have an idea, and what I do is I've created a system where with AI where it has a master prompt. It has a lot about me, my voice, my message, my brand, etc. It knows me well enough. And then I tell it, look, this is what I want to do. And if we design a plan together, what are we going to be using to be able to streamline the process without me feeling overwhelmed and then breaking down and then not achieving, maybe even giving up. So you can use AI to your advantage for more clarity. It has to bounce off ideas and so on and so forth. So step number 1, I want you to try. I want you to list every tool you opened this week. And then I want you to write that AI tool, the browser extension, the assistant that you used in the past 7 days. Beside each one, I want you to write a single specific job it does in your workflow. If 2 tools do the same job, run it by AI. I did that recently. There was something that I thought I could do on Claude Code versus Manus. I was interacting with Claude and I asked it, which one is better? How can I use them? So that I can get a good input. And I've already trained AI to not be giving me always what I want to hear. I want I want constructive criticism at all times. I want it to be real so that it really recommends things in a way that's effective for me. and not just making me feel good in a sense. And then all of a sudden, if you find things that do the same job, you already found something that's like a switch task that's burning capital. And most founders, when they do this, or busy entrepreneurs or people, they find that 60% of their stack is somewhat reductant. They can do away, they can cut certain things out and still do the same thing or more. Step number two, consolidate. One tool per job, no exceptions. Define the things you need to do. And again, you can use AI to do this. Build it out. If you put if you comment below this video and you wanted me to give feedback, then comment below your email and I'll reach out to you personally and I'll give you a prompt that you can use to do this, based on your sector, whatever you're doing. Choose one tool per job and commit to it for 30 days. No swapping. Delete the rest, move them to an unstart folder, remove the extensions. So if you're not using they're not essential. And if you can decide on something, just cut it. And there are things that I have that I'm probably going to cut because I haven't used them. And they're just open there because I keep them open just in case maybe I need them. Then step three is integrate. Time block the tool by tool, not by task. Group similar work into single tool blocks, all writing in one window, all research in another. You could use Cloud Cowork, for example, where it's able to streamline the operations and dump them into organized folders. If you need help with that as well, drop a message down below the video and I'll reach out to you as well. You can also DM me on my Instagram at zenbrain_IG. I'll put in the description as well. And you can message me there that you watched the video and that you want whatever specific tool or prompt I've been talking about. Block 60 to 90 minutes. Remember, we've talked about these ultradian cycles. You don't do well. The brain doesn't do well. After the 60, 90 minutes, you start to deteriorate. Block windows where you stay on one tool, where you don't open anything else. You're trying to do deep work. You're trying to focus. Treat tool switching like meeting switching. You're in a meeting, you can go to another meeting. So don't schedule something else while you're in that tool. Don't kind of reactively jump all over the place because you train your brain to become more reactive rather than creative, rather than more powerful. Remember, deep work isn't a tool. It's a window where one tool gets your full brain's attention. Or it's not just one tool, but whatever you're doing, devoting yourself to. It's almost in a sense like it's like being devoted to somebody or being devoted to your faith. Somebody who's fully devoted is all in, heart and soul. Kind of do that. Have that type of mentality where when you do something, you're doing it as if it were the love of your life. You kind of go all in. You dive into that pool head first. Don't be loosey-goosey jumping around. That never leads to good outcomes. And then lastly, remember, there's a neurological upgrade. When you start to tighten that stack, there's a neurological upgrade. Stress levels drop after the first week of doing this. Your prefrontal cortex will start to reorient. It will expand the functions of the prefrontal cortex so it's able to do more, better working memory, better deep work. And of course, founders who do this feel like after months of doing this, their brain starts to come back online. They can think more creative. They're not so overwhelmed. Remember, the less you switch, the more clarity you have, the more output you're going to have. And of course, if you need help, join Zen Brain Academy. We're going to be starting a founders group of a select 100 that will get access to an AI app that we're going to be launching that I think will be amazing. You will get access to this for free, be able to beta test it, and more than likely there'll be a whole bunch of perks, maybe lifetime access to the beta app for free. Once it's launched, you'll have it access for free for at least a whole year. And it will be more than likely an app that you will use more than any other app. and it will use our proprietary information, a lot of unpublished work that I will not publish as a book, or it will not exist in any other way other than in the app itself. If you want access to our newsletter, it's right here. And of course, if you want access to those prompts that I mentioned earlier, visit me at ZenBrain_IG for Instagram. And I will drop the prompt that you will use for being able to organize it, to talk with AI, to be able to develop a better system. Remember, if you develop the right system, you can do more. And if you train the brain, you will upgrade your level more than just upgrading from a tech standpoint. All right. With that, I'll see you next week. Take care. Stay zen.